bit on health. Justin Rolat, BBC News, Dubai.
A very busy start here in Dubai, and to help us break it all down, it's a pleasure to be joined by a special guest, Damilola Ogunbiyi, who's the special UN representative for sustainable energy. Thank you for being here. I just want to first ask you about some of these pledges that we've heard today, tripling renewable capacity by the end of the decade. Is that encouraging to you? What do you make of some of these pledges that we've heard already?
Well, I think the tripling of renewables and doubling down on energy efficiency is critical. It's also critical because it's also a development issue. So when you're saying you're tripling, you're actually adding more energy to people who are living in energy poverty and don't have energy at all. So I think it's important to note that this shouldn't be just an announcement for countries that are fully developed and are transitioning from dirty fuels to clean fuels. It's also important from countries that do not have access to electricity and clean cooking to use this as a moment as well to get on the ladder of electricity and truly not leave anyone behind.
And when you talk about that, a lot of people say it's about making this leap, isn't it? It's about, for some countries, jumping over the fossil fuels that so many developed nations use to get to that status and leaping towards renewable energy. What will it take to get those developing countries to make that leap?
I mean, one thing we've seen in COP today is that the developing countries are really leading the way in climate ambition, and that has been so encouraging. It's important to note that people are talking about their green growth pathways. People are talking about their energy plans to clean now. There's still 675 million people that have no access to electricity at all, so unfortunately they won't be watching this today. But we can make sure that their transition to energy is renewables from the beginning, but it's going to need an enormous amount of money and resources. I know we're always talking about the 100 million or 100 billion, or it's going to need trillions invested in these developing countries. So they see their growth as green from the beginning, and we're not coming back in 2 or 3 decades trying to get them to transition out, because it has to be fair, it has to be just, and it has to be equitable. So even the amount of energy they need has to be equitable to living a dignified life, and not just a minimum amount of energy because people don't have any energy at all. So on that point, I just wanted to stress the financing part. The Secretary General did stress a full reform of the global infrastructure on financing right now. That is what is needed to see climate as a crisis in the financial markets as well, to make sure that we are all encouraged for greener, cleaner financial instruments.
I know that you were following very closely an event that took place in September, the first ever Africa Climate Summit. Tell me about that and how that might have kind of set the stage for what we're seeing here in Dubai.
It's back to what I was saying about global South countries really stepping up, because they know that economic sustainability and the reliance of their continent in Africa, who are not the cause of the climate crisis, but they feel the burden of the climate crisis, they know that they have a responsibility. And that's what the leaders showed us in the African Climate Summit. They all came saying that we want to transition, we want to make sure things are greener, but we can't leave people behind. So what I got out of that was so powerful and so important. That climate is development and development is climate, and we can't separate the two. That is what it is in Africa. So as they're doing development projects in water and agriculture, food systems, they're also climate friendly, and that's what we want to bring in, and that's what we've heard a lot in the African Climate Summit, but also at this COP.
Many nations beginning to lead the way, many of them in Africa. Damilola Ogunbiyi, the special UN representative for sustainable energy, thank you so much for being here. And it really has been a momentous start. So many deals and pledges to keep track of. We'll continue to follow all the developments here for you from Dubai.
Thank you very much.